So today's tutorial is talking about a progression that everybody needs to know. And I talked about this in one of my last videos, but I wanted to sort of get more in depth of this progression. And it's this progression that you've heard in so many songs. I'll play it right now. Okay, now this progression, we break it down, this is in the key of C. So this is the A minor to the 6, to the 4, to the 1, to the 5. Okay? Now, this progression is so commonly used in so many pop songs. Sing a couple songs, for instance, what's this song? Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la. That's one area where you can see it. Another one is, for instance, tonight, I'm not loving you tonight. Give me everything tonight. There's Africa. I don't know the words. What about All of Me? Your smart mouth, drawing me in and you kicking me out. Got my head spinning, no kidding, I can't bring you down. What's going on in that beautiful mind? Oh, I'm on your magical mystery ride, and I'm so singing. So yeah, that's another example. A lot of Latin stuff, like for instance, Bailando, which I did already. Yo quiero estar contigo y vivir contigo. Para que te acuerdes si tú estás conmigo. Or la mano arriba, cintura sola, da media vuelta, danza. Or voy a reír, voy a bailar. So I just did a bunch of songs there. They all have this same progression. What's this progression? So let's talk about it a little bit. So if I play my C major scale and I go up to the 6th degree, I get the A note, and I build an A minor chord off of that, okay? From there, if I go down to the F, so bring my E up to the F, roots down to F, that's the 4, there is the 1, and then there's the 5. What defines pop music? Like, what defines creating good pop music? Well, pop music, as we know it now, which is different from what it was 30, 40 years ago, but pop music now really stresses familiarity. So what does this mean? Well, number one, it's got to be easier to listen to. Especially nowadays, it has to be easy to listen to, right? You can't be putting too many complicated things because you lose your audience. That's just the nature of pop music nowadays, okay? Number two, it's familiar. Well, if you notice, I played all these songs that have this same progression. Maybe they're in different keys, but it's the same progression. So that tells you something. That tells you these progressions it's like a hook. It's a hook that is so easy to fabricate all sorts of hits. And so obviously the people that are driving this business, they're going to use these sorts of tools because they want to rake in the money. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's all about the money, right? I mean, sadly, the golden age of the singer-songwriter doesn't really exist anymore. We now sell music as a package. There's got to be a look. There's got to be an aesthetic. There's got to be a persona, and the music needs to fit that, and that music needs to be sellable. And so this is basically just it's a progression that is used so much. So as musicians, for all those that do a lot of these top 40 corporate shows, or you do a lot of pop stuff and covers, these are progressions we need to know because it's part of that, part of those tools we need to have in our pockets down, okay? Now, what makes this progression so attractive? Now, I think apart from the chords all being familiar, there's something about the way they voice lead to each other that just create a tension release sort of relationship. Let me explain. So let's go to the key of C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Great. Now, if we take the sixth of that, A, okay, make an A minor chord, this is the relative minor to the C major. Now, guess what? They're like cousins. So if you play C to C, and if you go to A and play A to A, you get the exact same scale, but you get it with a different start on the note. Now, if you take a look at this, right? So same key signature, same notes, same everything. Okay, this is my C major scale, or in modal terms, C Ionian. This is A minor, A natural minor, or in modal terms, A Aeolian. They are the same notes in essence, but because we start them and group them differently, they have a different sonority. They make us feel different, because that's what music's all about. It's how you feel, the aesthetic. Okay. Now, let's really dig into the actual progression. So we start on the A minor, okay? Then we go to the 4, which is F. Then we go to the 1, which is C. Now right here, we can basically say we're in home base, right? Okay, home base, great. And then we go to the 5. Now, were we really in home base? Well, check this out. From this G, which is the 5th. Now, typically, right, when we're talking about Western contemporary music, right, the way we've been taught functional harmony is this 5 naturally always leads to this, right? So we got this to that. That's a perfect authentic cadence. And that is something that we do not need to go to school to understand. Why? Because we feel that. That sounds home base. That's home run, touchdown. Yes, we're home. We are home. Great. But here, rather than me ending on that one, what do I do in this progression? Well, I go back here. Now, in classical terms, this would be considered a deceptive cadence. Think about that. Deceptive, right? Tricky. It tricks you. It's deceptive, right? Why? Because this wants to go to here, but we don't do that. We go from here to here. And guess what? From here, we go back to this whole mumbo jumbo. A lot of people, they state, oh yeah, this is the 6, 4, 1, 5 in the key of C. And yeah, that's completely right. A lot of people say this is in the key of C. I sometimes have a hard time. If we speak functionally, yes, it's in the key of C. I also like to think that it has a modal nature to it, right? I think it really has a strong pull to the A minor, even stronger than the C, because if you think about it, the way it fits, right? Tell me where you feel it strongest. That's like a relaxation. But then we get like this sort of tension here. It's like this natural, not super tense, but there's a little bit of tension because this continues going. And so we never really have a place to really stop this progression. It just keeps going, and you can do this all day. And this is why you can, you've seen those videos on TED Talks or whatever, where the people sing one song after another, like I do in this video. It just never stops. Okay? So there's like this natural circle that happens around it because we just really don't define something. And and me, I always like to reharm the crap out of stuff. So I'm playing here, right? I almost went into just the two of us progression. That's for another video. Okay? And so there's so much information happening in these 4 chords. And when you really think about it, you dissect, it's like, wow, there's a lot happening. And I think that familiarity is what really makes it easy for producers, for songwriters to really just base so much songs off of that. I've done shows where I've done sets that almost always sort of rotate around those chords because there's so much stuff right now in the top 40 Latin stuff that they're just using those same chords, right? So is it a crime? Like has music really come to its complete collapse? I mean, I don't know. That's a good question to ask. Have we really watered down music to a bunch of these to go to chords that we just play on and a bunch of songs and just keep recreating songs out of? I mean, that's a great question. I'm not the one to really answer that. I am just a humble artist that shares information, right? I do these tutorials and I perform and interpret these songs, and I usually put my my own twist to it. And that's where I stand. I can't really defend or critique. I think there are its pros. I do have strong opinions also, and I do see cons to what's happening. But what's your take on this, right? I'm open to hear what you think. Now, to close us off, a great way to do this is try this in different keys. Okay, now you notice I usually one way to do it is you can start root. You take that note, go up. See that? See how I did that? That's the E flat. That's the 4 right there. And I just moved that D up to E flat. Here I went from here, left that to common tone there, and then these two will move down and leave that common tone. If I go here on the E, right? Move the B up, the other two are common tones. Now my G is going to be my common tone, move the other two down, and then my G and B are going to be moved down, the D is going to be a common tone. So there's different ways to go on about this. You can practice different inversions, find different ways of doing this. Definitely learn this in all 12 keys, and then in one of the next classes, I'll show you how to reharm that completely and get it out of this world and make people think you're this amazing piano player from these little tricks I'll show you. Okay, have a good one, mi gente. God bless.